Hello everybody, welcome to this week's live stream. It was a bit last minute because I've had some power problems today, but I'm glad we got to do it. So as usual, if you haven't attended these before, the way it breaks down, we'll take a look at some of the major announcements for next week. Pretty busy week next week on the economic calendar. Then when we've done that, we'll jump onto the charts and take a look at the big markets, indices, currencies, commodities, oil, gold, Bitcoin. And then if there's any stuff that you would like looking at, if you put that in the chat, and then we'll take a look at it when we've looked at that stuff. I've got a load of US stock trades on at the moment, so I'm just seeing where everything's opening today. It looks fairly undramatic today. We'll talk about that as we go through. It's only the first couple of minutes anyway of US trade. But what's been the highlights of the week before we get into it? Well, we've had fresh all-time highs for the NASDAQ earlier this week on, when was it? Wednesday. Fresh all-time highs in the S&P on Wednesday as well. So that's been a highlight. FTSE has had an okay week. I missed that trade on the FTSE, not that I'm bitter. That's been okay. DAX has been pretty strong. In other stuff, I think oil is interesting. We'll take a look at all of these in a bit more detail. I did a video on oil yesterday, and it's just all going up. But I'll be interested to see what happens if it pushes back near these old highs. And that's it really. But let's just get some admin done. Then we'll jump into it all, see what's going on. So this presentation is only for educational purposes. It does not contain and should not be construed as containing investment advice or an investment recommendation or an offer of or solicitation for a transaction in any financial instrument. David Jones accepts no responsibility for any use that may be made of these comments and for any consequences that result. You should consider whether you understand how spread bets, CFDs, futures, foreign exchange work, and whether you can afford to take the high risk of losing your money. Trading is risky. Right, next week. There's a lot going on next week. Tuesday, we've got EU GDP. So how well or not is the European economy doing? Wednesday, US rate decision. It's a big one. Wednesday night, my time, here in the UK. Let's see what they say about rates and what they think about the future for rates. So we could have perhaps a quieter start to the week until that one's out of the way. Then Thursday, we've got European inflation numbers, UK rate decision on Thursday. And on Friday, I think it is the non-farm payrolls on Friday next week, isn't it? I looked on one site and it said it wasn't, but I looked somewhere else and it said it was. So can I Google that quickly? If anybody knows for definite. But yeah, it is saying 2nd of February, 2024. So they're out next Friday. Anyway, a whole load of stuff going on next week. As usual, I'll come back next Friday at 2:30 after the payrolls have been out, and we'll see how everything is. But plenty to cause some volatility in the week ahead. So let's see what happens. I've got a few trades open at the moment. I'll talk about them as we go through the stuff. I sat with a trade on heating oil, which felt like forever. I've been in that trade for a couple of weeks, and that's finally got a move on. The last couple of days. I was long the dollar index earlier this week, came out of that last night. I'm short pound against the dollar. That's a bit against me at the moment, but again, a little bit sideways overall. And the other trade I got on is Swiss yen. Again, I've been in that one a while and it's gone fairly sideways. It has got a move on today, so we'll see. And I'm long the S&P from yesterday on a short-term trade, but I do wonder if perhaps the cleverer trade today, particularly in the NASDAQ, is to look to sell short. But we'll look at those in a bit more detail in a second. Let's just go through some more stuff. I mentioned last time round I'm working with a new broker. The link to join up, to sign up, is in the description below. So I'm shifting all my trading over to this broker. Tight spreads, which is what's important for me, particularly on some of the more active stuff I do. If you have a look at bit.ly/David Trade, the link is in the description. You can sign up with a broker if you want to. If you go through me, then I'm doing lots of webinars for people who sign up for me. So you get an extra bit of value added on to the top there with that. I've run a trading course for a few years now. Part of the trading course is a WhatsApp group that's been running for a year. It used to be just for people who've been on the course. I opened it up last summer. It's proved to be popular, I think. So what happens in the WhatsApp group, there's a daily update from me, what markets look interesting. As usual, I cannot remember what I talked about today, but I start but it goes through. Sorry, the doorbell just rang, so it's distracting me, but I'm going to ignore it. So markets I'm watching. So I mentioned oil. I thought was an interesting market today. Perhaps natural gas. Perhaps we're seeing a short-term base for natural gas. Trades I'm running. So I talk about the positions I've got open, the short-term, medium-term, and equity trades I'm running. I'm trying something new with shares this year. I've done it in the past, focusing on US shares. And what I do is just try and do a trade a day and try and build up a portfolio, a mix of long and short US stocks. So that's gone okay. That's gone okay during January. Not surprising because we've had strong US stock markets. My best performer so far, it was a bit of a fluke. It's one I put on earlier this week, ahead of earnings. Where's it gone? Can't remember what they're called. General Dynamics. So I put that trade on ahead of earnings, and we saw a bit of a jump up over the last few days. So I'm long that. So the US stocks as well, I put into the WhatsApp group. So it's like a running commentary of stuff I'm doing throughout the day. Normally 2 or 3 updates from me, and then if there are any questions, people can fire in any questions as we're going along. So it's it's a busy group. It's not not stuff all day long, but for me, I look to trade a couple of points during the day, in the morning, typically before lunchtime, and then in the afternoon, sort of 4 o'clock when US markets have been running for a bit, and I'll update the group. So if you'd like to join the group, you can try it out. Go to the website, davidjonestrading.co.uk. If you use the code YouTube, you get 20% off the first month, so you can try it out and see what you think. That's a snapshot from a while back of the sort of thing I talk about, and a chart of the day. Excuse me. I think natural gas was the chart for today. And that's it. And one final thing. God, it's all happening today, isn't it? I've got the doorbell ringing, I've got the phone ringing. One final thing. I do send out a newsletter every Saturday, which is free of charge. And if you go to the website, I've started sending it out again. If you go to the website, you can sign up. It's that box there. You can sign up there. And I look at, again, trades I'm doing, where I think the opportunities might be in the week, and a trading tip as well. So that bit is all free of charge. So go to the website, davidjonestrading.co.uk. I've never been so popular. I'm going to switch this. Let me just put my phone on Do Not Disturb, because it's all going a bit crazy this afternoon. davidjonestrading.co.uk. You can sign up for the newsletter. Right. Let's take a look at what's going on. Interesting week. My focus has been on stocks and stock markets this week, because it's been obviously, a strong market. Interesting to see what happens today. But if we start off with the S&P, this is where we are on the S&P. The trend since October is up. It's the same old really for me, from a more medium-term point of view on US stocks. Trend is up. The trend accelerated since then. We've seen this market hit fresh all-time highs over the last week or so. I want to buy the dip. I've done a few trades on the S&P this week. I did a really good trade last Friday. I think it was after the live stream. I bought this pullback. I think it was about 3 o'clock, just to the previous day's high, and then just sat with it into Monday. So that ended up being a really good trade, and a couple of trades this week. And like I say, I'm long at the moment on the S&P, but the trend is up. What can you say? So for me, if we had a sell-off this afternoon, a deeper sell-off, one area I would watch the lows from earlier in the week in the S&P around 48.40. But I just want to buy the dips. Pretty straightforward, I think, for me. Same with the NASDAQ, really. We've had that run from, where were we a year ago on the NASDAQ? The NASDAQ was about 12,000. Here we are at 17,500. So what's that? 40% higher than where we were a year ago. Fresh all-time highs we've seen in the Nasdaq since late December, and I want to buy the dip. Perhaps the shorter-term trade today is perhaps the seller rally, but for me on the short-term chart, the big level to watch. If we did see the market sell off today, I think it's interesting to see what happens if it drops back to those Tuesday lows from this week around 17,300. Let's see what happens there. But overall, same old on stock markets. DAX, I had been short the DAX. I was the wrong way on the DAX. I thought it was going to run out of steam. It hasn't. Let's just tidy things up. But again on the DAX, we've seen this move to all-time highs or multi-year highs in December. A little bit sideways since then, a little bit corrective, but it's had a good run over the last 6 days or so. So for me, next week, can the DAX break the all-time highs at 17,000? I don't know. Let's see. Let's see what happens. But a strong run over the last few days. FTSE, the trade I missed on the FTSE this week, it was a good trade. I put it in the WhatsApp group. I wanted to be a buyer. I think it was here on Monday. And I should have bought at 74.80. But I was busy doing something else. And you know how it is. And the market moved 40 points. And I thought, I'll wait and see if it comes back. And then I missed it again the next day when it was at 74.80. And then here we are at 76.50. So I missed a good trade there. But I did put it in the WhatsApp group. Great, didn't follow my own recommendation. But a great trend on the FTSE over the last week and a half or so. From a daily point of view, it's still pretty sideways. Whenever you look at the FTSE, if we go back to 2023, it's a market that's sideways. So let's see what happens next week. If it runs back up above 7,700, we've seen this being a problem area for FTSE over the last 6 months. Let's see what happens. So not the most exciting market a lot of the time for me, but it was interesting this week, I thought, the FTSE, because of that recovery that was going on. Let me have a quick look at my US stocks, make sure I'm not getting clobbered. No, that's all okay. Very good. Okay, that's good. So that was that. Japan, the Nikkei, interesting one. I mean, trying to buy a dip in the Nikkei, and I wonder if it comes next week. So this is the Japan 225 index. The trend from 2023, early 2023, accelerated from March. Then we saw this just massive, not massive slide, but it just drifting from June, the Nikkei, all the way through to this year. And then this year, it's really woken up again. We've gone surging through 34,000, put on 10% in very short order, and has backed off a bit this week. But I think that's another interesting one for a more medium-term trade of perhaps buying the dip next week in the Nikkei. There was some support around about 35,000. I think you can see it. I can't believe that. I've done something to my YouTube settings and I just saw, I'm watching it on another screen, ads keep jumping up halfway through this live stream. So I apologise for that. I have to figure out how to switch that off. But I think the Nikkei for next week, 35 to 35,250 could be an area to watch. But for me, I want to buy the dip. But as of today, it was still dipping. So not much doing for me at the moment in that one. I thought the China market was interesting this week. We had that news. I don't know if you saw it. China, let me just Google the headline. China, there we go. China moves, here's one headline, to spur its slowing economy and boost markets by cutting required bank reserves. So the Chinese government trying to do its bit to help its economy and prop up markets. And we did see a strong reaction to China A50. This is when the news came out. We saw that rally up. So I thought it was an interesting move. But does it really change anything? I'd say at the moment, no. So for me, on that China A50, I'd be tempted to be a seller of that rally for now. So I think we've had the surge on the news, but we've had no follow through over the next couple of days. So I wonder, is it just a bit of a blip up, and then normal service resumes, and we see the China A50 turn back down again? Because before that, it was at a multi-year low. It was the lowest the market had been since 2019. So the Chinese A50 index was at a 4-year low. So I thought it was interesting they came out with that. But for for me, not that much impact so far. So that's stock markets. Interesting, I think. My focus still very much US markets. I'm long the S&P at the moment. If it breaks out today, as you can see, I don't know if you can see that on your screen, I've got a dotted line in there, just above 4,900. If it breaks there today, I can move my stock to trailing on that. Let's see what happens with that one. The NASDAQ has run out a bit of momentum over the last couple of days. But if it drifts back to these lows, these 17.3 lows from Tuesday, let's see what happens. So that's it. That's still very much my focus. But the Japanese market is worthy of a mention because we had that surge in Jan, and I think what's interesting now is how far does it back off before the trend resumes again. So that's that. Stock markets still all about the S&P and the NASDAQ for me. Dollar index. So I did have a trade on this week, but looking at the dailies, this is a daily chart. It's all a bit boring, isn't it? That's the last 5 days or the last 7 days on the dailies. Pretty boring. And of course, when the dollar index is boring, it means that for me, pound against the dollar, euro against the dollar, there's not a lot to do there either. So I did trade it this week because the trend had been up, bang, bang, bang. It did move out to a new high for the year here on Tuesday. I bought the dip on Wednesday and was out of it. I think I was out of it last night. So it was all right. But overall, not much in the way of direction for the dollar index. So nothing too exciting for me in that one. Euro US dollar. I mean, that trend goes back to September 22. So that's a 15, 16 month trend now. I think it's an interesting perhaps month ahead. Do we see the buyers come back in? It would mean, of course, the dollar index will go down. But let's see what happens. That whole 107, 108 area. Again, no real urgency for me to do anything on that at the moment. Let's see what happens. But I think it's interesting for the euro because we do have, obviously, this bigger trend going on. Pound against the dollar. Again, look at that. Pretty tight, isn't it? Going all the way back pretty much to the beginning of December. You know, we're trading now, not a million miles away from where we were 2 months ago. Really tight range, not very exciting. I'm short that at the moment, which I don't think is the greatest trade in the world. But yeah, nothing really on that. Swiss yen, that's the trade I'm in. Bought that. That's been sideways. Maybe it's going to break out. If it breaks 172, perhaps things get a bit interesting. But not too much exciting in the world of FX for me at the moment, because this dollar index is so sideways. Now oil, I think oil is an interesting market. So here's the dailies on oil. So just to I did a video yesterday on oil. So we had the surge up on the Russian invasion of Ukraine in March, obviously, up to about 131, and it's been just giving it up since then. We saw the sell-off from September. September oil was $95 a barrel. December it was 68. Is it trying to make a base down here? I think is perhaps the bigger picture for oil. You know, we've got the old lows from May of last year, and the lows from June down at 67. Let's see. So I think, you know, clearly in the short term we've got a great trend in oil. There we go. Look at that textbook trend in oil. Lovely trend in oil. Going back to last Wednesday. So that's been going for 7 days now. So absolutely in the short term, I'd be a buyer of the dip. I just wonder, you know, we can see back in November and in late November, $80 was a barrier. So if you didn't really believe the strength in oil, if you thought it was a bit of a flash in the pan, it's quite interesting to view this strength as perhaps an opportunity to sell short. So I think it's an interesting week next week for oil. So I wouldn't sell short yet because that trend on the hourlies, there we go, is most definitely still up. But I think if oil starts nudging back, you know, we're only $3 away towards that $80 area. I think it's interesting one to watch next week. So let's see. Heating oil, like I said, I'm in the trade on heating oil. Got a lot of lines drawn in there. I mean, that trade makes sense to me. For me, it looks like the correction in heating oil from September through to December is over. And I wonder, are we building a new trend in heating oil now? Anyway, I've been in the trade, like I say, at least a couple of weeks. Probably, I don't know, I think it was back here somewhere. So it surged on the first day I was in, and I thought, oh, here we go, fantastic, off to the races. And then it's done nothing for the last couple of weeks. It did get a move on again yesterday. Let's see what happens there. But I think that's an interesting market from a daily point of view, because I do wonder, is that correction over? Let's see what happens. Natural gas. What an evil market natural gas is, eh? I mean, that's vicious. The last the last 5 weeks or so. So it goes from 216 to 340. So it rallies. What's that? Well, it's more than a 50% move, 60% move, 70% move in what's it? No, it's 60% probably in natural gas, and then it's giving it all back almost. So I suppose it's interesting because it had been trying to recover. That lovely trend coming into November, and it fell out of that trend, and since then it's just gone back to being a lunatic market. So I think it is interesting. I was thinking about maybe buying this afternoon. We'll see. We'll see how it trades a bit later on. But we've got the old lows. If you thought that a base was in place for natural gas, you've got the old lows at 216 from December. The market's 241 at the moment. If you bought it with a stop at, let's say 205, you've got 36 points risk. If it goes all the way back up to the highs from just a couple of weeks ago, you've got 100 points upside. So I think it's an interesting one down here, but as ever, absolute lunatic market, natural gas. Let's see what it looks like as the day goes on today. But I was thinking about maybe a short-term trade on natural gas. And then other markets, gold, boring for me. I think I'd rather be a buyer than a seller. We had this trend up from October. It's drifted out the trend. It's just drifting. So for me, it's perhaps a bit more interesting if it nudges below 2,000. But there's not an awful lot going on in that market for me, so not too much. A bit the same for silver. Silver, it's pretty sideways. You go back a year or so on silver, it's a pretty sideways market, isn't it? So I don't really know. I've got really no real opinion on those. I suppose you could make the argument that the trend is down still on silver. Perhaps it's having a little look at the trend line. This is on the hourly chart. This is the last month or so. But for me, with trades, if they don't jump out at me, I'd rather look at another market. So nothing too exciting for me in those two. I think copper is worthy of a mention. Copper had a bit of a move this week. Again, if we looked at it back here, I would have been a buyer back here because we're holding above the old lows from the 6th of December. Been a bit of a surge this week. But overall, copper's a bit sideways as well over the last 8 months or so. So, not a lot too exciting going on in there. Cocoa, the old favourite. Absolute cracking trend in cocoa. Going back to September 22. New highs again this week. Just yesterday by the looks of it. Yeah, look at that. So, that's always an interesting market. Cocoa. And that's it really. So for me, now Bitcoin. Let's have a look at Bitcoin. Bitcoin, we had that ETF announcement, didn't we? This is a great example of buy the rumour, sell the news. We had the ETF announcement a couple of weeks ago. The market touched 49,000. And then earlier this week, it was down at 38.5. So it lost 1,000, 10,000, I should say, after the ETF announcement. Let's see what happens down here. The trend is still up on Bitcoin. I'd rather wait and see. The big trend, going back to November 22, I'd rather wait and see. We've had a bit of a big day today, but it's all a bit scrappy as usual. So I'm don't find it, nothing that exciting for me in Bitcoin at the moment. It's perhaps a bit more exciting if it pushes back to the mid-30s, Bitcoin. But I think it's quite interesting how that market has reacted since those exchange-traded funds were announced. Probably reacted the way a lot of people weren't expecting it to react. So that's it really. So for me going into next week, stock markets still very much the focus. I think they're interesting markets. Currencies a bit boring until things wake up a bit with the dollar index, and oil is interesting as we nudge towards that $80 level. If I look at some of the stock trades I've got, let me just see what's moving today. GE, I've been in that one for a while. That's been a nice one. So I'm in General Electric. Eli Lilly, only bought that this week because it was breaking out. Bought those the other day. They got clobbered after I bought them. But that's Molina Healthcare. I'm wondering if they'll hold up, bounce back from here. Win, I'm short those. I've only got a couple of shorts. And that one is against me at the moment. I've been short First Energy for a while, and that's done really well. It's a bit of a fluke, that one. So with US stocks, there's always something interesting going on. So I'll probably do 1 or 2 US stock trades this afternoon, and I always put them in the WhatsApp group. And the idea for me behind these trades is to run them, try and find a trend like General Electric, for example, and just run them for as long as I can. Might run for weeks and maybe even months. The same way, whenever we do trades in these live streams, there are trades in here like Dell, Cisco, Shopify, FedEx, Palantir that have been in there for weeks and months and just sit there and try and follow the trend. I was in Coca-Cola from one of the live streams back in October, I think, and I came out of that this week. But there's the Dell trade that I did in the live stream back here, 30th of November, buying them at 69 and they're currently 83. So that's the idea behind my stocks trading, is a more relaxed approach, not having to watch markets too much, and just try and add 1 or 2 trades in a day and try and have at least a balance or a mix of longs versus shorts. So my bet, like I said, the best performer at the moment, I think I mentioned it, wasn't it? Was the GD, General Dynamics. So I'm in that one. And the other best performer is, I think, the short on First Energy. But what else is doing well? Broadridge, BR. So look at that one. There we go. So I bought into that one as well because of the trend, Broadridge Financial Solutions. So I mix the different bits. So yeah, there's always plenty to watch and plenty of opportunities throughout the day. But what we'll do now, we'll take a look at some of the stuff you want. So don't forget to find out more about the trading course I run and the newsletter, sign up for that. Go to the website. The broker, the details of the broker I use now is in the description down below. So you can sign up with those and get access to webinars with me. But for now, let's take a look at some of the stuff that you want looking at. Hang on. Natural gas, where to? I think we covered natural gas, didn't we? So for me, it might be a trade down here, depending on what happens this afternoon. Let's see what happens. But I think it's interesting. We have had on natural gas 1, 2, 3 days of higher highs. It has tried to stage a recovery. So it's just whether you think this dip is a buying opportunity and has another attempt next week to move higher, or is it going to take out the lows down at 231 on the hourly chart? So for me, I'd still be looking to be a buyer, but let's see what happens this afternoon. Can we take a look at Next? Yes, Next, the UK high street retailer, isn't it? Why is that not coming up? NXT. There we go. They used to be, it's going back a while now, it used to be a real star performer, didn't they? Yeah, I remember them from here in the 2000s. Fantastic there. What was that? From about £10 a share to, is that £80 a share? Anyway, where are we? They are breaking out. Wow. Is that all-time highs for Next? That's interesting, isn't it? So I would be a buyer. The only question is, do you buy them now or do you wait for maybe a bit more confirmation, another breakout? I'd happily buy that now. So if I was a buyer, the closest I would have my stop, the other side of 79.60. It's done really well though, hasn't it? I mean, it's doubled since the October 22 lows. But I think it's interesting, it's breaking out to all-time highs, I'm guessing this is, isn't it? Yeah. But actually, a little note of caution, because of course breakouts don't work all the time. You know, we did have a breakout back here, didn't we? April 21. And broke out, and then just gave it up. Interesting to see how this one goes. But I would still, for me at the moment, personally, I would still be leaning to be a buyer with a stop at least the other side of 79.60. But no, great performance, that, isn't it? If China's stock market will recover and break the downtrend, right, let's bring that up. Hold on, the China 50. If China's stock market will recover and break the downtrend, do you think the money will change a little bit from the US markets to Chinese ones? Don't know, don't care, is my quick answer to that. I think absolutely, if the market does start recovering, you know, there's a great saying, there's nothing like price to change sentiment. You know, so if we start seeing headlines saying Chinese stock market up and we see some good performance there, then absolutely it would, you know, it would be more attractive to people as an investment, wouldn't it? Again, I don't worry about that sort of thing when trading. I just go with whatever the market's doing. So QCOM and AMD. Okay, QCOM. Let's have a look. QCOM, Qualcomm Incorporated. Oh, it's been a bit volatile, hasn't it? What's going on? So we've had earnings. When were the earnings? Oh, they're next week. All right, the earnings are next week. Both reporting earnings next week. That's been pretty volatile just this week, isn't it? Intel plunges as chip maker, blah, 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 blah. What would you do? What would you do? I don't know. You could make the argument that, you know, Qualcomm in the last 18 months has been pretty sideways. And it's had another run at the highs and it's run out of steam again. That's one argument, isn't it? So one argument is to go short. I might go short that. I mean, that's not terrible short, is it? I don't think. With a stop at, I don't know, 160, maybe. That's quite interesting. But the trend has been up since November. So, I don't know. This is one of those that I look at it and think, I don't know, so I'm going to look at something else. It'd be interesting to see what the reaction to the earnings is. But I saw that Intel had a weaker forecast today or something, hadn't they? Let's have a quick look at those before we look at AMD. So I'm not sure on that one, to be honest, Kevin. Don't know for me. So let's have a look. Let's have a quick look at Intel. See what's going on with that today. Yeah, so that's okay. I don't know. Right, AMD was the other one. I would have to buy that. Let's tidy that up. Hold on a second. So again, the cautious, sensible approach is to wait for earnings to come out of the way. So are they Wednesday next week? When are the earnings? Tuesday. They're on it. But they're breaking out to all-time highs by the looks of it, aren't they? Yeah, all-time highs. So for me, I would want to be a buyer. What have they done? They've gone from 94 to 180. So they put on, they've doubled, haven't they, since October. That's a heck of a move, isn't it? So for me, I'd want to buy the dip or buy it now. The only question is, where does my stop go? Plus we've got the earnings, so it can all get a bit volatile. The closest I would have my stop probably would be 150-ish. That is a pretty volatile stock, isn't it? I mean, just this month, it's gone from 134 to 185. So it's moved $50. So it's a 35% move just this month. That is a lot of volatility, isn't it? But interesting one. But I would buy that. I'd rather buy that one than QCOM. That would be my approach. You'll be buying both for earnings. Well, it's worked well before, so good luck with that one. Good luck. Let's see. Let's come back to them next week and see how it does. But yeah, pretty volatile, aren't they? Palladium. Is Palladium still going down? It did look. I did wonder if it was going to try. I know it's just sitting right on it, isn't it? It's an interesting one. Palladium was a brilliant market for me in 2019 and into 2020, just before COVID. I did lots of trades on Palladium and I kept adding and adding. It was just a fantastic market. When it was doing that, just free money. Obviously, there's no such thing as free money, but it was just great. And then since then, I mean, loads of volatility. But that's what it looks like. So I think the question for Palladium, and I don't know what the answer is, do you think the downtrend's over? You know, it was just steadily down, hits a low in December, around about 9:30, let's call it. $930, rallies and has come back down again, and it's just sitting around there again. So if you really wanted to buy palladium, if you thought 2024 was going to be a great year for palladium, then this is the place to buy it, or it would be for me anyway, because there's an obvious place to have the stop, isn't there? You know, so the other side of, I don't know, 900, let's say. What was the low? What was that low on the 17th of Jan? 905. Yeah, so for me, it's an interesting trade down here. It's probably not one I would do at the moment because it's still a bit too weak, but it is interesting that it has at least stabilised. You can see it was fairly relentless sell-off on the way down, but it has held above the December lows. Or around the December lows, perhaps is a bit more accurate. So it's interesting. I'm just not quite sure, but it's an interesting buy in terms of risk reward down here. What do you think of Kering on the daily? Kering, Euronext, French stock, is it? I would. Well, I'm sort of inclined to be a seller because the trend has been down. They've gone from €800 in August 21 to 386 today. Okay, but you know, if you were a bottom fisher, we are back to a level where over the last 5.5 years the buyers have come out. But I would say it's only been the last week the thing has moved. So at the moment, if I had to do a trade, then I would sell it short, is what I would do. At the moment, would be the trade I would do. So if it pushed a bit higher, I'd go short. I'd put a stop about 440 and then see, is it going to turn down again? But it is interesting down here, down at this €350 level, just to see if we see, you know, the same thing that's happened over the last 5 years or so, and the buyers come back in. Let's see what happens down here. But at the moment, I'd be tempted to be selling it short, to be honest. Tesla gap down on earnings. Would you be a buyer? I did have a look at that yesterday, actually, and I think probably not yet. You know, I was long Tesla last year. I think in that YouTube trading account was long Tesla for quite a bit of last year. And the trend from Jan 23, it was about $100. It ran up to $300, and it fell out the trend. And I always like to give stuff a second chance, but it's breaking lower again, isn't it? So I think there's a couple of trades here. There's a couple of trading ideas here. What I would do in the short term, if you took the view that the Tesla weakness, actually maybe let's do this trade. If we took the view the Tesla weakness has been overdone, be a buyer with a stop underneath the earnings low. There you go. That's one idea. So should we do that? Let's have a quick look. Hang on. So I think the Tesla weakness has been overdone. This is the new trading account. Let me drag this across. So I think the Tesla weakness has been overdone. Well, I don't know, obviously, but I think that's an interesting trade. 180 was the low. What did it move yesterday? 193 to 180. Okay, let's go 175, right? So we're going to go stop at 175. Let's not go crazy. If you do 0.1, it's 85 quid risk. Let's do 0.2 then. What's 1.5? I'm trying to get 150 risk here. 6, 7, 8. There we go. So we're going to do that. I'm going to buy them, okay? So I'm going to buy them. I'm going to take the view. Yesterday's weakness. I've lost the chart. It's perhaps overdone. Let's be a buyer of Tesla. Let's do the trades. Go. Oh, God, I haven't got enough margin. It's my age-old problem. I just trade too much. Not enough margin. Okay, but there we go. I should really top these accounts up, shouldn't I? I think that's one trading idea for today that I would do. On the dailies, I'd rather sell a rally. Yeah, so I do think perhaps in the short term, it is a bit oversold. It's very oversold on the daily RSI. Yeah, but let's see what happens. So for me, 180 is the level to watch on Tesla. If it breaks below there, then I think the risk is it's going down to, I'd be looking at these lows from April last year. Let's see what happens with that one. and see where we go from there. And otherwise we're done. If there's no more questions, we're done. Let's have a quick look. So trades I'm thinking about doing this afternoon. I'm long the S&P anyway from yesterday, so I'm happy to stick with that. But I do wonder if perhaps the better trade here, it's not happened yet, if there's a bit of a rally in the Nasdaq, short the Nasdaq at the end of the week, as perhaps, a little bit of momentum has left this market. So I wonder if that's interesting. The other interesting one I'm thinking about doing is this natural gas one. As much as I hate natural gas, and I've been wrong, I think, my last two trades on natural gas, I'm quite tempted to think, well, do we think it's going to try and have another go at these old highs next week and maybe a little bit higher? So I think that is an interesting market for this afternoon. And then I'll look, as usual, at a couple of stocks and look to do a couple of stocks trades. How are they doing so far today? They're doing all right. There's nothing really standing out for me at the moment. So that's it, really. So for me, I'm interested in the markets that are moving. The markets that are moving are still stock markets. So that's still very much my focus. I don't have much interest. So US and NASDAQ are the ones I look at every day. I don't have much interest at the moment in currencies against the dollar, because here's the dollar index. It's all a bit flat. So nothing too exciting there. I think oil's interesting going into next week, because we've had this great trend for a week and a half now. And we've got these old barriers from November coming up. So that could be interesting. Gold is a bit boring, because again, the dollar's boring as well. So nothing too exciting there. But again, still enough, I think, to watch. And because I'm doing a lot more with individual shares, there's normally at least one or two trades a day for me on that side of things. So if everyone's happy, we'll wrap things up there. So go to the website to find out more, davidjonestrading.co.uk. You can join the WhatsApp group and get lots of stuff throughout the day. You can try that for a month. Use the code YouTube to get a discount off the first month. Otherwise, we're all done. So we'll see where these markets are in a week's time. Lots going on next week. There's all that stuff next week. I mean, that could be... that you would expect that is going to be the thing that wakes up currency markets a bit next week, the dollar. This US rate decision on Wednesday. Hopefully things will get a bit more exciting after that. But then we've got the UK rate decision and then the non-farm payrolls. So it's a really busy week. So as usual, I'll come back on Friday and we'll see where everything's at. Okay, but have a good weekend. Good luck with your trading and see you next Friday.